on this. We'll dive right in. So thank you for joining us tonight. The whole purpose tonight is to give you a little bit more information, but mainly to answer questions related to two things. One, the activities coming up on Saturday, February 12th at Whitetail, and then also for winter games on February 28th, which is now a one-day games. So we're going to go through some stuff. There's a little bit of new information. Some stuff we're still trying to figure out even for this weekend. But we do have a Winter Games management team meeting on Wednesday, and we'll have some more answers following that. But mainly here is to answer questions that you might have related to Saturday, February 12th, and the Winter Games on Monday, February 28th. So joining me tonight in presenting is Steve Bennett. And yes, I'm sorry, you do have to put up with that. And Ryan Kelchner, which is a pleasure, of course. I know John Bagassi getting ready to walk out when he heard Steve's talking. So anyway, so I did want to give you an update on this. Not going to go into any detail other than to say we, at least as far as the Omicron variant goes, are on the downside here. We're at 23.7. What that really means, why that's important and why we've been watching it is, in particular, is the operating into what's called low risk is a lot freer. It's a lot easier to operate in there as opposed to operating under significant risk. And in particular, if we're in significant risk and below 50, and we have at least 80% of the people participating in a given activity, then we can drop all the way down to the low risk because of that high vaccination rate. So we are at that here because where we can operate under low risk because of we're requiring 100% vaccination for the winter activities or any alpine or snowshoeing activity with multiple areas, which is the case here. So given that, we will be operating under low risk. We'll talk about those in just a second, assuming that there isn't a sudden new spike for Omicron 2 or something in the next couple of days. But also keep in mind, we do need to follow Whitetail's protocols, and we'll highlight a few of those as well. So given that we are operating in low risk, the SOMD protocols, again, assuming numbers don't go up, that we apply are we do not need to do on-site screening. In addition, masks are not required for vaccinated participants. If we had any unvaccinated participants, they would need to wear masks indoors, I think actually outdoors as well, but we don't, so it's not relevant. Distancing, social distancing is still recommended or encouraged, but it's not absolutely mandatory. There's no restrictions on how we do meals. But with this, particularly because the only reason we are able to operate under the low risk category is that we have such a high vaccination rate. We're not having any delegation, any people who are not members of the delegation permitted in any of the delegation spaces. So those are the things that apply from Maryland. Then with Whitetail, they do require masks at all times when you're indoors, except when you're actually eating or drinking. They do not require masks outdoors, but indoors in every space, they require that. In addition, any kind of transactions, any purchases, anything like that are cashless. They use your card or your whatever the different codes you can do and so on down the line, but they're all cashless. And then also, if you go into an indoor, I don't think it says indoor on there, but it is any indoor place where they're serving food or selling food, you must provide to them proof of vaccination or that you're fully vaccinated. That could be a vaccination card or a copy of it or anything along those lines. That does apply if you go inside to what they call marketplace. That's the cafeteria area. It does not apply to where we're going to be having the Alpine folks come in for food and such, which is in the Solstice restaurant. One of the other challenges that they've had with Whitetail is, as many other businesses, is being fully staffed. And so they've closed down several of their eating establishments, including the Solstice restaurant. Those of you who aren't familiar with it, Solstice is the restaurant that's up on the upper level. It actually adjoins to the upper space that we have used historically. And we essentially have that entire space as well. That's why we can spread out and operate there. So we'll be serving our food there. We're not going to go into any of the Whitetail food areas. But if someone from your group chooses to do that, they're only going to be allowed in if they have proof of vaccination. And they have security at those locations. I promise you they will be checking that very carefully. So anyhow, so those are the in general, the protocols that are in place. For Alpine, we're going to have our check-in at the Solstice restaurant. I'll come back up to the other points in that slide. If you're familiar with, here's the loop and the drop-off and the main area. The hill is up here. So we're going to be in Solstice, which is, again, the upper level, right over top of here. There is an external or an outside stairway that goes up right to the restaurant there. Comes right up from, if you know where the outdoor ski check is, I call it the Bastille. It looks like a little fort right in the middle. It's right by there. You just come up the side and takes you right into the Solstice on the second level. If you have anybody who has in your delegation who has a mobility challenge, there is an elevator that's available, but we want to keep that very, very limited because it has people coming in a different entrance at that top level, and we need to be monitoring folks coming in. Also, Whitetail prefers that we not use the elevator unless it's something that's actually in need. It's not it should not be the first choice to come up there. But anyhow, we have that whole space there. We have the, if you can imagine, the big open second level of the lodge here that we traditionally have had. And we also have the tables that are above the marketplace location. So over on this side of the facility, we have a lot of open space and such, and we should be able to spread out as we need to and such. So,
hey, Mike, if I could just add, and if you already addressed this, I apologize. I was answering some questions, but the other thing there is, as Mike said, come in through that other entrance, or most preferably use the outside staircases. If you try to go in through the marketplace and use those stairs to come upstairs, those are going to be blocked off. So apologize if you already addressed that, Mike.
No, actually I had not. So, but anyway, and also if you're on that side of the facility, I was going to say that side of campus, but that side of the facility, our intention is with winter games, as you'll see, we're going to use that same space essentially as our control center and dining area for lunch and so on for other folks. But anyhow, so use the exterior stairway. Do not, just as inside the building in general, don't bring skis or poles into Solstice or any of the other indoor spaces. When your delegation members check in the morning, we will have a roster and only allow those who are registered delegation members into that space. We will not be giving them their lift tickets and their bibs at that point. It's just a quick check to make sure folks, that we have the control over the space there. Head coaches will need to pick up that packet. Again, this is head Alpine coaches here. Steve will talk about snowshoeing in a minute. But you'll pick up your packet. That'll include lift tickets, passes, rental forms. So we're not sure whether they're going to use lift tickets or those hard passes that you can put into an outside pocket of your jacket and they just scan them and such. We're just not sure what that's going to be. I'm sure you can roll with it either way. But anyhow, you'll pick that up. We'll also have bibs for each of your delegation members to wear and such. So, but we're not going to give those out to the individual coaches or other skiers. That's what your head coach needs to do to pick that up. We will have pre-assigned seating locations within those sections, and we should have a lot of flexibility to spread out, again, using Solstice, the upper level and such. And you can walk right through from Solstice to those other spaces very, very easily. It's very convenient and such. So we have the upstairs restrooms that are up there. Again, for those of you who have been to the facility, it's just us using them. Everybody else, they're not sending anybody upstairs. Anybody else in the facility are using the lower restrooms. So that also makes it all the more convenient. One thing that we're not sure of is whether the tables and such are going to be preset or that we need to do it ourselves. And if we do have to set them, we're going to have to tear them down also. So we may need some help, just telling you ahead of time, setting and moving tables and chairs around in the morning and in the afternoon. So if any of your folks can assist with that, if that is a need, we would greatly appreciate that. Again, we see the setup here. Excuse me. We're still working on the specific schedule, but the basic schedule is for Alpine is the control center and registration will be open no later than 7:45. The rental shop opens at 8:30. Now we're working with Katrina Gaiman, our contact there on site. She's been very helpful, but not everything, there's lots of things going on there. Trying to set up a separate pickup place for any rentals that we have, so folks don't have to go through the rental line. At this point, that is not yet confirmed. So we'll hopefully know by Wednesday night. Again, this is strictly Alpine, folks. On the chance that that doesn't come through, if you have anybody renting skis, I would plan to be there by 8 o'clock, if you can, to be the first at the rental shop. I think Linda Simeon was there for when we had the OnSnow, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior. You might have been the very first person in line when you got there.
Yeah, I think I was.
Yeah, and so it was pretty quick. The line can get to be, I've heard, as long as an hour and a half to 2 hours otherwise. Again, Katrina is doing everything that she can to see if we can't have a separate space. If that happens, we will certainly let you know. That's why we ask for all your sizing information for your rental folks ahead of time. But we just don't know that as yet. But the rental shop will open at 8:30. So if you do need to go through that route, the earlier you're there, the better. The lifts, as usual, will open at 9 and you can go out there. It'll be, the general thought is you'll be skiing and doing training with your athletes in the morning. At some point in the morning, the courses will be set up for the time trials, and you'll have an opportunity, or your athletes will have an opportunity to run through them. Then in the afternoon, again, we don't have the specific times at this point. We will in a couple days. We'll have assigned each county with their time for when their athletes who are novice to do their novice trials, and those who are either intermediate or advanced to do their trials. We're trying to nail down the numbers that we have for everybody. And that is, we've got most of that information and we're still getting some more. So again, we'll share more information as soon as we have that. But the rest of the day, you're out skiing on your own, so on down the line. For Alpine, as is typically the case for this weekend, the lifts or the charges for lifts and rentals will get charged to your area. There's no actual cash changing hands. It's all done through our accounting system. And those lifts and rentals are only going to be available to registered delegation members who are participating in Alpine. Special Olympics Maryland is going to cover the cost of lunches. We usually have, for this event, have charged lunch through to you or through to your area. We're going to cover that. With that in mind, again, I mentioned that Whitetail has had some significant staffing challenges and such. In fact, the only dining areas that are open or where they're selling food is our marketplace, the cafeteria, and the outdoor, I don't know what you call it, kiosk or stand, whatever, on the patio. Those are the only two places that are open. Supposedly the thing out on the patio has significantly expanded its menu as well. But Solstice is closed. The pizzeria is closed. The coffee shop is closed. None of the other, I don't know, that might be all of them, but none of the other facilities for dining or for purchasing food are open. We are getting from Jersey Mike's, who happens to be a sponsor for the USA Games, by the way. So if you're in the market for a sub or a hero, think of Jersey Mike's. That's your commercial for the evening. So you placed your orders for that. We'll have a box of or a bag or whatever of those lunches that your area ordered there for you. We don't have the time at this point, but we'll ask you when you check in who's going to get your lunches for you, because we're not handing out individual lunches. Your head coach or designee is going to come and pick up the entire lunch order, and we'll then take it to their space in Solstice, and then you're responsible for monitoring it and distributing it to your group. We've taken that general approach for most of our competitions over the last over the couple of years prior to COVID hitting, and it works very well. So just know that as soon as we know a delivery time and when stuff will be available, we will let you know. Again, you'll pick all that up in Solstice. Actually, we're planning to use the bar, which is very well positioned to handle all that. But we'll let you know some more information when we get there.
Mike,
And then just some Alpine notes, reminders that the time trials for novice and intermediate advanced, given concerns over time and so on down the line, the plan is to have those be a single run on the standard modified slalom course. A second run will be permitted, timed run, I should say, if the skier falls or there's some other problem. Keep in mind your athletes and your unified partners both need to do make a successful run. If there are any changes in events, as is typically the case with time trials, you get there, you thought somebody was an intermediate skier, and realize when you see them actually running gates, they can't handle that. You want to move them down to novice, certainly can do that. We need you to let us know that on site. Come up to the control center in Solstice, and we'll let you know. It says no later than TBD. We'll let you know that when you check in the morning of when that needs to be in. Okay. Keep in mind also, if you're going to shift levels, you got to be sure that the skier has gotten a time trial for the level that they're going to move into. Should be pretty straightforward with that. Again, not a huge change from things. Helmets. Since the course we're using for time trials is a modified slalom, and the quote unquote new FIS helmet certification requirement does not apply to slalom. It applies to giant slalom. It applies to super G, and probably many other races that we don't do. The RH 2013 certification helmet is not required for the time trials. As a coach in other sports, I strongly recommend that you have your athletes wear it anyway, so that they are acclimated to it. That if you're not familiar with, if you're a new skier or whatever, I mean, there is a big difference having that helmet with the hard shell over the ears compared to the soft shell over the ears being free. You're doing your athletes a disservice if you don't have them actually do their trials wearing the helmet they're going to wear when they run some of their races. So that's a recommendation. It's not a requirement. That requirement will be in full effect at Winter Games for any of the Super G and the giant slalom. If you wish, we will also do the inspection and put the little sticker on it that we've done each year on Saturday, on the 12th, and that sticker will be valid through Winter Games. But if you want to wait until the Winter Games, that's fine too. And then just a reminder that skiers must wear gloves and goggles. So before we shift over and I hand it off to Steve, any questions on Alpine for the 12th? After we talk about snowshoeing, we'll then talk about Winter Games and such. So Steve, were there any questions that came into chat?
I didn't see any, Mike. I think one
Like
point
Crystal has a
is.
question.
Yeah, I'm
one-
sorry. I'm
Go
on
ahead.
my phone. I'm having difficult doing the chat and all that stuff. I forgot my laptop today. Any word on Glide and Super Glide yet?
We're looking at the numbers and we'll make a decision on that Wednesday night. It's a combination of safety and just personnel. And I know that one of your now fellow coaches has offered to potentially assist with that event. So want to get you an answer as soon as we can on that.
Okay, because I only have one athlete in our entire delegation that's interested in going to games, and that's our Glide Super Glide person. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I wasn't sure if we needed to go this Saturday or not. Okay, thanks.
Actually, good question, because I didn't explicitly say this. Time trials this Saturday are strictly for novice, for Alpine, are novice, intermediate, and advanced. Time trials for the Glide, Super Glide, if we do have it, will be done on site on the day of winter games.
Okay, if she
Much like-
wanted to go and ski, even though there's not time trials, is that still an option?
That is absolutely an option.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Similar to basically for that athlete, and even if we ultimately don't offer Glide, Super Glide, your athletes could still come and ski. Much like the training that's going on for snowshoeing, they're not doing time trials. They're just having a nice training day on snow.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike?
and before Greg, before we go to you, George Herganon had a question, and I think it was just placed in there from Ryan. So about what events for Alpine have been offered. We did submit or send out that list of events offered by Alpine, which I believe Ryan had put there in the chat. So I'm going to read through them real quick. Intermediate slalom, intermediate super G, intermediate unified super G, the advanced slalom, advanced super G, the advanced unified super G. The novice slalom, I think, is the one that is under consideration.
Giant slalom is. Novice
I'm sorry.
slalom is in.
Gotcha. Novice slalom is in, my bad. The novice giant slalom we're hoping to do. We need to get some confirmation on Wednesday night, as well as the Glide and Super Glide that we've talked about. We're very hopeful we can offer all of those ones that are under consideration, but we just need to get some confirmation on that. So, and with that, Greg, I know you had a question up, so if you want to unmute, Greg Loika.
And I'm looking to the side because that's where my picture of your faces is. So that's a better profile. Right?
Yeah, Greg, if you want to unmute yourself, you can ask your question. If not, you can type it in. Looks like you're not unmuting, so.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go, Greg.
Yeah, the clarifications sent out said that all Super G have to have helmets,
Correct.
a certified helmet. And novice does have a slalom and giants, I'm sorry, and all giant slaloms require a helmet. And novice does have a giant slalom
Mhm.
under consideration. So, but for the 12th, we don't need that helmet, right?
So on the 12th, you do not need that helmet. I recommend you have them wear it just for them as a competitor, but you do not have to have that. If we do offer the novice super glide, I'm sorry, get them all mixed up. If we do offer the novice giant slalom, they will, to compete in that, they will need to wear the RH2013 certified helmet for that.
Okay. When will you make a decision on whether you're going to have that for the winter games?
On Wednesday night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So we'll
Wednesday night of this week, we have, those of you who have been around for a bit know, we have an absolutely incredible management team of volunteers who run this entire event. That meeting is that night. They were waiting on some of the numbers. The hitch with the novice giant slalom is the timing and the ability to reset the course, given the number of people that Matt and his team believe they'll have on site. So knowing the numbers of athletes, as well as he expects to have a better picture of his team that he'll have out there, because that is a very technical task. We'll know Wednesday night. So, and no later than Thursday, we'll get it out. May get it out to you guys Wednesday night, any of those changes.
All right, that gives us plenty of time then. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Okay.
Mike,
Yeah.
Mike, for getting rental skis, the guys in the rental shop are usually don't have the latest information, and the way that they operate is on people have made advanced when they get their tickets, online, they've put in that they want a rental. So when you go to sign in, they look you up in the computer. So that probably needs to be straightened out before we bring in our forms.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. That's helpful to know. I'll tell you what, we can come back to more Alpine questions, but I know we've got several folks for snowshoeing. So if we can shift gears slightly, let's do snowshoeing and then winter games, and then we can open up to any additional questions that folks might have. Okay. And there we go.
Thanks, Mike. So again, for the snowshoeing coaches and for Ryan and the crew there with Trish and Ron and many others, we're looking at the check-in to be done at the Mountain Ops building. That's where we've typically done the OnSnow training check-in at the Mountain Ops building. So that's the same location. It's not at the tubing park. It's up at the Mountain Ops building. Ryan, Ron, and Trish and the group there looking to be ready for you guys to check in there around 9:15 in the morning on Saturday. And the parking, as we've always stated, is there at the Mountain Ops building. There's no parking available for delegations. That's strictly for the whitetail folks, their operations, their vehicles, any emergency vehicles and access. So please direct your folks, families, anybody else coming up there to park in the main parking area. And again, as we've stated on a weekend, get there early to get a good parking place, but do not park up by the Mountain Ops building. If you do, there's a chance you may get towed, and we don't want to have to deal with that and try to track people down and everything. So please relay that message along. The training and the setup for OnSnow training is same as we've done in previous years for snowshoeing at the Mountain Ops building. Is Ron, Trish, Ryan will be there to help and assist and give points of clarification or little hints, suggestions, possibly do some simulated start races, starting of the race, that kind of thing. But it's basically for you as coaches to work with your team on that terrain. And it's, hey, here's snow, here's space. We're here if you need it, and they will be there as resources. But once you guys get out there, it's yours to do your training for your athletes and your partners, etc. So I just want to make that point. Again, we're keeping our fingers crossed. As of this morning, the conditions look good at Mountain Ops. Not anticipating any changes, but if anything comes up, we'll definitely notify you guys. Similarly for Alpine is the cost for lunches will be covered by the state office for those attending per your orders that were submitted. Mike already talked a lot about this. The one change here for snowshoeing is we are very hopeful that we'll be able to have Jersey Mike's deliver these directly to Mountain Ops, to that building. If not, we'll make arrangements to get those over to you guys there. So you guys would not be coming over to the Solstice room to get your lunches. You stay right there at the Mountain Ops area. Again, if anything changes, we'll definitely communicate that to you. There will be very limited seating in the Mountain Ops building. So we're looking to see what chairs and a few tables that may be available from Whitetail. But we encourage you to bring your own folding chair, whatever, or your lounge chair, whatever. Again, we just don't know at this time, so be prepared for that. There's not going to be a lot of sitting around, obviously, but to get your snowshoes on and get ready to go out. And then when you're eating lunch, if none of that's available, We could possibly, have some of you guys come up to Solstice to eat your lunches and then go right back to Mountain Ops. Again, there is no shuttle service being run currently to take you back and forth from the Mountain Ops to the main lodge area. So if you plan on coming back there, know that you're going to be walking. The other option is, you can go to your cars to eat your lunch or whatever. We're working on that, but wanted to give you some of the parameters that we're working with that we know at this point. Similarly, the mask reminders, as Mike said, in the indoor space that serves meals, you must wear a mask at all times. Really don't think that pertains to certain areas in the Mountain Ops because the doors will be open, but we do need to clarify that. So we need you to be prepared that in the Mountain Ops building, you wear your masks. I'm not sure exactly where that pertains to in Whitetail, but we want you to be prepared to wear your mask when you're inside the Mountain Ops building, getting your snowshoes on or whatever, unless when you're eating in there, you can take your mask off while you're eating, okay? But once you leave the Mountain Ops, obviously you can take your mask off, etc. Okay? Now we'll get into a few, we'll ask to see if there's one or two questions pertaining to snowshoeing. Didn't see any come in through the chat, but then we can go right into Winter Games information and some updates there.
Yes, Steve, there was a question from John directed to me, but John, yes, you did, and you're all set.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll just hit some Winter Games information here, some updates. As we talked about with the costs being covered with lunch, but for Alpine being worked through the area programs for this coming weekend, for Winter Games, there is going to be a flat rate across the board for all delegation members, and that rate's going to be $25. If you think that's too low, you can obviously bring cash and hand that off to me at Winter Games. But you can see the rates that have typically been charged in the past, the $195 to $120, depending on if they were overnights or day of athletes or delegation members. So this is something we were able to do this year. This is not something when we get back to normalcy that will continue most likely. So this is a kind of a 1 year time frame of just a flat rate of $25, which will cover your lifts, your rentals, and your meals with the one lunch there. Okay. Check-in will be conducted on a venue by venue perspective. So Alpine will have their own check-in, same as this weekend is our plan at the Solstice Room upstairs. For snowshoeing, a little different. It won't be at the Mountain Ops area. It will be down by the tubing park area. We're still solidifying our tent needs and setup of those, but it won't be easy to miss. We'll have some signs up and give you some information in the upcoming pre-competition webinars that happen the week leading up to the games. So again, check-in for Alpine will most likely be the same place. Snowshoeing will move down to the tubing park for check-in for Winter Games. Basic schedule, again, as Mike had indicated, we're still working through those based on the registration numbers. Just heard from one or two county programs that they're backing out today. So we're adjusting and looking at those schedules accordingly for Winter Games, and we will share those with you at the pre-competition webinars. Ceremonies, there will not be a big opening ceremony as we typically do at Winter Games. It'll be similar to what we did at this past Summer Games. Each venue will have their own opening ceremony. It'll be very brief. Basically, it'll consist of an athlete oath, a coach's oath, maybe an official's oath, the national anthem, and then boom, let's get the games going. We're hoping that Whitetail will be able to put the cauldron on by the lodge, where they've typically done that. Not sure yet. So again, it'll be a very brief opening ceremony at each of the venues, then we'll go right into competition. Once the ceremonies won't start earlier than 9. So that's kind of your target area to be ready to go, be there for ceremony, and then get right out to the competition field of play. For snowshoeing, different from Alpine, we, Ron and Trish and Ryan and the snowshoeing team determined that they would be able to hold the time trials in the morning on winter games, and then do a break, and then do finals in the afternoon. So that's again why snowshoeing was not a requirement for this weekend. Different terrain, different venue, kind of, if you will, etc. So we want a good playing field and even playing field for everyone. So time trials for snowshoeing will occur on the morning of the 28th and go into finals in the afternoon. We talked about the glide and super glide, but just to reemphasize that, for alpine skiing, time trials, hopefully those events will be held for those athletes competing in those two events, the glide and super glide. If we're able to do that, those time trials will be done in the morning on February 28th, exact time to be determined. And then the finals will be in the afternoon, or maybe right immediately after that, depending on the number of athletes, etc. Again, as we talked about, the final determination for a few of the events that are under consideration based on limitations of personnel, management, timing, all of that. Again, as we've talked about, those will be announced later this week, hopefully Wednesday night, but possibly not until Thursday. But we'll also address those and any questions leading into the pre-competition webinars leading up to the week of the games. We'll also continue to address the Alpine session of if you need to change levels, make sure you do that this weekend and make sure you get a good score or a time if you change levels. That's a must. We're not going to be looking at, on the 28th, now I'm going to change the level. We're not going to have time to do that on the 28th. All that has to be done this weekend. So as we continue to monitor protocols, we've seen the drop in numbers up to this point. We hope that continues. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what next hour holds. So we'll continue to monitor those. And, if there's any changes, updates in a positive manner or in a more restrictive manner, we'll obviously update you on the pre-competition webinars with any changes. As we always indicate, regardless of what Special Olympics Maryland has in place, if a facility or a venue or wherever you're training locally or something that the state is offering to help with or providing, we always go with the most restrictive. So even if we say, oh, you don't need your mask inside or whatever, Whitetail says you do, we have to follow their protocols while we're in their place of business. So again, we'll update those if there are any updates. And if not, we'll give you the reminders again on the pre-competition webinars. As we have had the past, at least since summer games and probably going back before that, there may be the limitations on spectators, and we need to be prepared for that. Not only for this weekend, but also at winter games that based on our protocols, it may be no spectators in the general area and it may be a 50-foot distance or something to that effect, where families or spectators, non-registered delegation members, so basically general public or spectators, may have to stay away from where our award ceremonies are, where the actual opening ceremonies are for each venue, that kind of thing. So please make your families aware that you'll inform them, but they need to be prepared that they won't have any interaction with the athletes once the athletes arrive and then meet up with their head coaches. And from that point on, we're kind of staying in our restricted area with our delegations and volunteers, because all of our volunteers, coaches, athletes, partners, management, etc., will all be 100% vaxxed in order to participate or be involved with the winter games. So again, just want to let you guys know on what to prepare for. Lunches for winter games. We're still kind of looking at what the possibilities are there. There's three kind of basic scenarios. One is we go back to Jersey Mike's and have them bring another order up. Another one is the possibility of box lunches from Whitetail. Some logistics to figure out there. The last option, and most likely not what will be in place, but the typical winter games go through the cafeteria line. We don't anticipate that will be the option, but again, we'll let you know as we get closer. If we go back to Jersey Mike's, or if we do the box lunch with Whitetail, which both of those are more likely than the latter, be prepared for another form to fill out with options that will need to get back in a timely manner in order to place those orders with either whitetail or Jersey Mikes. Rosters and your delegations, what have been submitted in GMS with your events, your coaches, the sport volunteers, partners, etc., athletes, all of those have been sent out to area directors and coaches as well, Mike, or just area directors?
I went to area directors, excuse me.
Okay.
In some isolated cases, it also went to the head coach, but
Yeah.
it's more the area director.
Yep. So the area directors will have that. You can reach out to them if you wish as a coach to ensure what you think is what has been submitted is actually what the case is regarding your athletes and partners in their events, as well as any other personnel coming from your delegation in official delegation capacity. So
Steve, to clarify, what I sent out today did not include their events because that's
Okay.
still in a state of flux. It
Gotcha.
does list everybody, what sport, and whether they've been scratched or not, and whether they're going to be dropped. So,
okay. I think, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think the area directors should still have access to GMS, not to change anything, but to view
Right.
it.
Yep.
So if you as a coach want to say, can you look in GMS? I want to make sure that my athletes are in the proper events. They would still have the ability to look in and check that. They won't have the ability to change the events, but
correct.
they can notify Mike, myself, Ryan, or Ben
Yep.
of any changes. So thank you.
We'll also have for Alpine at least, possibly also for snowshoeing, rosters on Saturday with the actual events that they're entered in. Just we wanted to make it quick, get it out, to verify we've got the right people, we don't have anybody missing, and so on down the line. So, yep.
Good deal. And I did see a note, I think, that came in that Shelley Bagaski, our county director from Montgomery, confirmed that the email has been sent, and at least Shelley from Montgomery County has received it. So others should have had those as well. I believe those went out individually by county program.
There she is.
I'm lurking in the background.
Oh, no. Okay. Please go back on mute. Hi,
I get very little privacy.
I hear you. Thanks, Shelley. Good to see you as always. Here are the Winter Games pre-competition webinars. Hopefully you've seen these as coaches before. But if you want to make a note, again, we'll send out this slide deck and have it on our coaches resource page. But February 22nd was a Tuesday at 6:30 in the evening will be the Alpine webinar. You do need to register for that. Also, the snowshoeing is the following evening, Wednesday, which Ryan's doing double duty that day with Winter Games meeting, as well as snowshoeing webinar. Snowshoeing Wednesday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. So again, there's no overnights, nothing like that we'll be talking through for these Winter Games. We will not have a head of delegation webinar because the two sports are, for all intents and purposes, operating independently. But we do want to ask the question. I know we've gone over some information here. We hope you have everything that you need that is able to be shared at this time. But just wanted to see if you guys think there's a need to have another one for athletes and families, or do you guys feel confident that or that you guys can share the message to the families, or just kind of wanted to get some thoughts there. I know with summer games and some of the other ones, it was very helpful as we worked through kind of a first time during some of these situations, but wanted to get feedback from you guys as coaches and just see what your thoughts are. Is it a need? Bagaski in Montgomery County says he'll take care of sharing the information with families, but
Yeah, and also if we were to offer this, it would certainly be optional. It would be for whoever wished to attend. So,
I mean, just for me, I mean, for Winter Games, I mean, it's like my families are my drivers. I mean, for the most part, people aren't coming because, I mean, they're going to be separated and such. It's just, I just have the only family members that I expect to have are drivers.
Yeah.
So and I'm talking and I'm communicating with them now.
Sure.
Gotcha. That's
Also
perfect.
keep in mind, we're talking athletes as well. I know when we've offered this before, I'd say easily half to 2/3 of the attendees were athletes trying to get more information and such. So,
Yeah, I mean, I share with all the athletes that have an email address.
okay.
Plus at practice.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for the, anybody else, any thoughts? Looking,
See in the chat, Rachel from, I believe you're Howard.
Montgomery.
And Montgomery, that feels that it'd be good, but I think, you and John and Shelley, whatever, everyone else I'm seeing is saying that they think they can share it with their families and whatever, and
Okay.
doesn't see a need from what I'm seeing anyway. If you feel differently or don't want to share it in the chat, feel free to reach out and directly to Mike or myself. So with that, that's all we really have. Again, it's not a long webinar, but we think it's an important one as you guys continue to work through situations at your county programs with trainings and others. We continue to work through the same type of issues here. And we just really do appreciate the time tonight. Hopefully there was some valuable information. Obviously there's some stuff we still need to find out and get back to you. And we thank you. So John, I see you have your.
Yeah, so I mean, if you separate at the tubing venue, if spectators are separated, have you given any thought to how that would work, where they might be?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I will say that from a spectator's perspective, because that picnic bungalow area, as well as the awards tent, etc., are not going to give a very pleasant viewing perspective, if you will. There's some limited space along the fence line. There's some areas up as you go up the carpet area to go up to the top of the tubing area, but it's just not a great place. So we've given some thought to that. Do we have an answer right now? No, other than it is a challenge.
Well, I mean, I have one or two counselors that are driving. Can the athlete go back to them for lunch?
We'll have to give you get an answer for that.
All right,
It
so
really depends upon where the numbers are.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm just thinking about. I mean, they're driving them up. One of the athletes is sort of nonverbal. I'm used to him, so I'm not really that worried about it. But if he had his counselor that he had more access to, that would be an improvement in his experience. But I get I get the problem. So I'm just understand the details of where the balance gets struck.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we are looking to help, knowing that the cafeteria area, if you will, down at the tubing park may not be available to us. We are looking at some additional tents that would be down towards the bottom of the parking lot for a dining tent.
Okay.
Eat it and that kind of stuff. Also knowing that the shuttles may be a challenge, that we won't have those to use as emergency shelter. We're taking some of that into consideration, but yeah, we've got some challenges to work through for sure.
Will that building be open for bathrooms?
We're looking at bringing the portable ones in that we've had in the past.
Okay.
And I'm sure if on an as needed basis, yeah, I think we can get in there to use the
Well, we need to have one or the other.
Oh, we'll definitely have a restrooms for snowshoers at the tubing park. If not,
I hope they're the heated ones.
yes, we're hoping to get those based on availability, Katie. And if not,
well, I think the temperature for Saturday is going to be 58 degrees.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's wrong with it, you can blame Ryan.
Right, and you can put your magazine choices in with your lunch choices, and we'll.
Oh, I like that.
It would be Tim Shriver's book, right?
Yeah.
Thought we're supposed to under deliver and over promise.
That's right. So George is asking in the chat about whether they can use the ski school entrance for the lift lines. George, that is one of the things that we have had some conversations about. Particularly, well, everybody will be bibbed from our group, so it is possible we should have an answer after Wednesday night, at least for this weekend. And then similarly, it should be less of an issue at Winter Games because it's a Monday during the day. But for this Saturday, we'll hopefully have an answer for you after Wednesday night.
Yeah, Mike,
Yeah,
Mike, I was not specific enough, but I was asking about this Saturday. It will not be an issue on a Monday.
Right, right.
But I've heard that lines on the weekends have been phenomenal.
Yeah, and we've heard the same thing. And I know, you know, as we were talking with Katrina, our whitetail contact, George knows her very well from being on the management team for many years. They're doing everything in their power to, and as somebody else I was talking to earlier today was asking the same thing from Baltimore County, but they understand that as much preferential treatment as they can give us in order to get our events in, they'll do so for alpine skiing to get the preference for athletes, coaches to get on the hill. Exactly where, how that will work out, we'll know more details on Wednesday. But what I will say is they will do everything in their power to work with us to make that happen. I will also say that as we have stressed several times in the webinar, that whitetail under the new management of Vail Properties, et cetera, and experiencing some staffing shortages as many other businesses are. Please, please, please be gracious and thankful and appreciative of what they're able to do. There was a possibility that we couldn't have winter games for multiple purposes, but again, let's share with our other coaches, share with our athletes and partners, share with any other spectators that may be showing up. Let's be really respectful and thankful for the opportunity and the partnership. Without that, none of this would be possible. But I just want to stress that if there are long lines, they'll do everything they can to work with us. Just please be as patient as you can and be mindful of they're under major stress as well. So just want to appreciate their efforts.
I don't see any other questions. If not, then let me just echo, I think Steve said this in part of what he was just saying, but thank you. Maryland has been collectively on the forefront of getting our athletes back to training and competition, and that's because of you and because of your families and your athletes. And this is just another example. Things aren't completely back to normal. We are still in a pandemic, but things are looking a little bit brighter, and we're just thrilled that we're able to offer anything with this. And maybe over the next several months, we'll be even closer to normal. But thank you so much. You and your teams have made anything that we're able to offer possible. So thanks. And we look forward to seeing many of you on Saturday.
Absolutely. Ryan, if any last words from a snowshoeing perspective?
Nothing at all, Steve. You did a great job. But if there are questions, please feel free to call or email me. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. And just to note, Ben President was not able to join us tonight. So additionally, as Ryan said, reach out to Ben for any Alpine questions. And again, as Mike said, we thank you for all of your efforts on behalf of the athletes and partners and family members across the state.